The early morning haze settles over the Netzarim Corridor, a stretch of land that has become one of the most symbolically charged spaces in Gaza. The ground here, once carved up by military fortifications, surveillance points and layers of destruction, now vibrates with the low, constant rumble of heavy machinery. The engines growl, the blades scrape and the tracks grind across the earth as rows of bulldozers push forward, flattening rubble and reshaping terrain. Each machine bears a bright Egyptian flag pinned near the driver's cabin, the fluttering fabric catching the light as the sun rises. These visuals are more than simple construction scenes. They reflect a political message, a humanitarian urgency, and a new phase in the region's ongoing crisis. The Egyptian committee, operating under Cairo's oversight, has begun an ambitious and unprecedented project, the creation of a massive camp intended to house displaced Gazans in what was once an Israeli-controlled corridor. In this landscape, scarred by war, emptied of its original communities and still carrying the architectural ghosts of ministries, courts and residential blocks, Egypt is now carving out what it describes as a humanitarian solution to one of the most pressing displacement crises in the Middle East. As the bulldozers move in synchronized lines, the camera captures mid-shots of their blades biting into the soil. The machines scrape the last remnants of shattered pavement, overturned stones and exposed concrete foundations. Every few meters, their operators adjust the angles, lowering and raising the metal arms to level the terrain more precisely. From a wider angle, long rows of machinery stretch across what used to be a dense urban zone, once filled with government buildings, neighborhoods, and the routines of civilian life. Today, it is nothing but flattened ground and dust clouds rising in slow, shimmering waves. In the center of the growing camp area, the portrait of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stands propped up, leaning slightly against a newly placed support frame. It overlooks the leveling operation, serving both as a symbolic presence and a deliberate statement of Egypt's stake in this effort. Workers pass by the portrait, positioning themselves between the metal beams, piles of poles, and boxes of supplies that will eventually form thousands of tents. The atmosphere is busy but controlled. Bulldozers advance, reverse, pause, and shift positions with determination. Workers move quickly between sites carrying toolkits, metal frames, canvas rolls, water pipes, and cardboard boxes stamped with the insignia of Egyptian aid organizations. The dust coats their faces as much as the light does, and the wind sends ripples across the fabric of the first test tents being erected near the edge of the flattened area. At a distance, the faint outlines of existing tents can already be seen, some new, some carried over from previous phases of the humanitarian response. This stretch of land, known as the Netzarim Corridor, has long held a unique strategic role in the Gaza Strip. For months, the Israeli military used it as a controlled buffer and passageway between North and South Gaza, establishing bases, fortified checkpoints, and logistical stations. Even before the current war, the corridor was historically sensitive, but during the most recent conflict, it became an axis of intense military operations that reshaped its geography and erased many of its structures. The scale of the destruction is still visible. Workers move across areas that, according to local accounts, once held ministry buildings, residential blocks, and administrative facilities. Nothing remains standing. The ground is flat, stripped of its vertical memory. Instead of streets, there are tracks left by tanks and armored vehicles. Instead of courtyards, there are craters filled with sand and windblown debris. Against this backdrop, the voice of Mohammad Mansour, spokesperson for the Egyptian committee, provides a crucial link between what the camera shows and what the land signifies. Standing amid the dust and the machinery, he begins explaining the transformation underway. He says, "We are now present on this land, which used to be a strategic site for the Israeli army. This area is known as the Netzarim Corridor. It once had tall buildings, neighborhoods, and structures belonging to the Interior Ministry in Gaza, as well as courts. When the Israeli army launched its war on the Gaza Strip, it flattened these buildings and leveled them to the ground." His words carry the dual weight of observation and testimony. He is not only describing what the camera captures, rows of bulldozers, a landscape scraped bare, but also the political and historical significance of this transition. The land, once controlled through force, is now being repurposed for humanitarian relief under Egyptian coordination. Mansour's presence here, in an area previously inaccessible to civilians, underscores the shift. The bulldozers continue to work. Their operators move with an urgency that mirrors the growing displacement crisis across Gaza. According to preliminary estimates, the new camp is meant to house more than 15,000 tents, enough to shelter tens of thousands of displaced individuals and families. The scope of the project suggests that Egypt anticipates continued instability, prolonged displacement, and an urgent need for organized, large-scale humanitarian infrastructure. From another angle, workers can be seen unloading the long metal rods that will serve as the structural frames of the tents. Others roll out massive sheets of white and beige canvas, spreading them across the dusty ground to measure, fold, cut, and tie. Their movements appear rehearsed, an indication that many of these workers have participated in previous emergency deployments. Egypt has constructed camps in Rafah and other border areas before, but never on a scale like this inside Gaza. The camera then pans toward the horizon, where the first line of tents begins to take shape. Their outlines are small compared to the vast cleared space still ahead, but the geometry is clear. Rows aligned with precision, with enough spacing for movement, water access, sanitation units, and future communal areas. Workers mark the boundaries of the next rows, laying down stakes in the ground, using heavy hammers wrapped in cloth to soften the noise. The tents that are already standing move gently with the wind, their entrances facing inward toward the developing central pathways. Returning to the spokesperson, Mansour continues his explanation of the project's expansion. He says, "Today, the Egyptian committee began working here in this area. We are now close to Al-Zara and Al-Mughraqqa, and another camp in the northwestern part of the region, known as the Netzarim Corridor. The Egyptian committee is working here to set up more than 15,000 tents over an area of 2,000 dunams." His words reflect both logistical precision and a sense of responsibility. The mention of surrounding towns and refugee camps situates the project within Gaza's broader humanitarian map, a map that has been redrawn repeatedly by war, displacement, and shifting territorial control. The scope of 2,000 dunams, approximately 2 square kilometers, is vast. It indicates one of the largest single humanitarian camp constructions seen in the Gaza Strip during this conflict. For comparison, many existing camps in Gaza, including those in Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Deir al-Balah, are far smaller and were built gradually. By contrast, this camp is being built all at once, in a compressed timeframe under intense political visibility. Mansour continues outlining the support systems that Egypt intends to integrate into the camp's design. He says, "The Egyptian committee will equip these tents with covers, hygiene kits, and food parcels. The committee will also dig wells, especially the water wells that were destroyed by the Israeli army. Inside the Egyptian committee's camps, we will set up medical clinics, which will include highly qualified doctors, Palestinian specialists with extensive medical experience. This list is not simply a set of humanitarian items. It represents the attempt to construct an entire micro-society within a makeshift environment. In a landscape that no longer has usable civilian infrastructure, the camp will need its own water sources, its own medical system, its own distribution networks, and its own internal coordination mechanisms. Egypt's role here is framed not only as a neighboring state offering assistance, but also as a regional actor shaping the humanitarian future of southern Gaza. The workers begin assembling the first sanitation units near the edge of the camp. Tanks for water storage are rolled into place using metal dollies. Solar panels wrapped in protective packaging are stacked near the temporary offices of the Egyptian committee, waiting to be installed over the tent rows. These panels will provide enough electricity to power lights, phone charging stations, and basic cooling systems that may be added later. The presence of solar panels is a reminder of Gaza's severe electricity shortages, both before and during the war, and the camp's need for self-sustaining energy sources. Meanwhile, the bulldozers continue to expand the camp's footprint. The drivers maneuver their machines with practiced precision, flattening every slope, ridge, and uneven surface. Each pass widens the usable space. As the dust settles after each push, the land appears almost unrecognizable from what it was months earlier. No buildings, no debris, no obstacles left standing. From a broader perspective, Egypt's decision to build this camp in the Netzarim Corridor marks a significant shift in regional coordination. Throughout the conflict, Cairo has positioned itself as a mediator between Israel, Palestinian authorities, and international organizations. It has maintained a delicate balance, criticizing the humanitarian situation in Gaza while coordinating with Israeli authorities regarding border access and the movement of supplies. Building a massive camp inside Gaza represents a deeper level of engagement. It suggests that Egypt expects displacement to continue for an extended period and recognizes the need for structured, functioning spaces where civilians can live with dignity. As the camera captures additional angles of the construction, the dust thickens, swirling around the frames of half-assembled tents. Workers shield their eyes with scarves, adjusting their grips on the metal poles as they anchor each frame to the ground. Every tent, once complete, becomes another unit of shelter in an environment where protection from winter winds, rain, and deteriorating conditions is critical. Despite the ongoing progress, the camp remains a work in progress, a vast field of potential rather than a finished site. The visuals of bulldozers digging, leveling, and clearing communicate both urgency and scale. In one direction, the flattened land stretches toward the horizon, with no tents yet in place. In another, tent rows are beginning to populate the landscape like geometric islands. Near the center of the developing camp, a temporary administrative area has been set up, a row of small prefabricated cabins where Egyptian officials coordinate logistics, answer questions, and prepare documents. Supplies are sorted here before distribution. Medical teams stand by, their kits stacked on tables for rapid deployment once the first clinics are established. Children observing from a distance occasionally wander closer to watch the construction. Families that have already been displaced multiple times over the course of the war slowly gather near the edges of the site. They watch silently as bulldozers carve out new spaces that might soon become their temporary homes. Some clap softly when a tent is raised successfully. Others simply observe with wary hope. The landscape tells the story of a region caught between destruction and reconstruction. The ground beneath the bulldozers is still marked by the scars of the conflict that destroyed entire neighborhoods here. Yet the tents rising atop that same land reflect a determined effort to preserve life amid devastation. The Egyptian flag, visible on every bulldozer, signals Cairo's political ownership of this project. It is a reminder that Egypt's involvement in Gaza is not only humanitarian but also strategic. The corridor sits near key access points that Israel previously used to control movement between northern and southern Gaza. By building here, Egypt is inserting itself into a zone that has been at the center of military and political decision-making throughout the conflict. As work progresses, the scale of human need becomes more apparent. Gaza's displaced population has surpassed 2 million people, almost the entire population of the enclave. Many have been displaced multiple times, moving from one temporary location to another as fighting shifts. The new camp aims to provide not only shelter but also stability, predictability and services in a moment where most civilians have none. At the same time, the project raises long-term questions. Will this camp become a semi-permanent community? How long will displaced families remain here? Will reconstruction in their home neighborhoods ever be possible? How will the political authorities in Gaza respond to a large camp built through Egyptian coordination? And how does this project intersect with ongoing negotiations, ceasefire proposals, and humanitarian access agreements between regional actors? These questions do not have immediate answers, but in the present moment, the focus remains on the tangible: canvas tents, flowing water, food supplies, and the creation of habitable spaces where families can gather, sleep, and regroup after months of instability. The camera returns to the wide shot of tents already erected. They stretch across the horizon in organized rows, contrasting sharply against the surrounding brown dust and flattened land. The winter light casts long shadows behind each tent, giving the impression of movement even when everything is still. In this final scene, the activity continues. Bulldozers push forward, workers build the next row of tents, and Mansour's words echo in the viewer's memory, descriptive, precise, and grounded in the reality of a place that has shifted from military significance to humanitarian necessity. Egypt's project here represents a moment where geopolitical strategy intersects with human survival. where political calculations meet the immediate needs of displaced civilians, and where a corridor once controlled by force becomes a landscape reshaped for refuge. In the story of Gaza's ongoing conflict, the construction of this camp will mark a notable chapter, not only for its scale, but for what it signifies: the attempt to create order in chaos, to carve safety out of destruction, and to provide a semblance of stability for those who have endured months of war and uncertainty.